The mighty Ohio River flows through the heart of the Cincinnati region. Without it, the area simply would not exist as we know of it today. But Ohio holds many secrets from her long history, and many legends have been born from it, such as ghost ships, mysterious murders, and creepy cryptids. Tonight, we talk about one such story, the Roebling Bridge Sea Serpent of 1878. Welcome back to Hometown Haunts and to our latest season, season 5 of the podcast. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I'm haunted historian, cartoonist, and host of the show Cat Cloco, and along with me on this journey into the unknown are my friends Christina Wald and Jen Kohler.
Yay.
Yay! Um, our show news is, hey, we're finally back. It's
Woohoo.
almost autumn. The last time we talked, Christina was traveling abroad. Jen had
Yes.
not yet gone to Chicago to see the Supernatural crew.
Ooh.
Like, there's so much stuff that
I
happened this
think it
summer.
might have been June.
Yeah, I think it
Mhm.
was June as well. But just as for all of you listening, welcome back. It's nice to see you all again. And you can follow us at Hometown Haunts _podcast for all of the news of the show. Please forgive the scratching at the door. That's just the zombies trying to get in. So, how are all of you doing?
Oh, it's been busy. I think we were just talking about that before we started recording, how crazy it's been.
Yes. And then the internet decided to shut us off.
Yes, we had an internet snafu.
Big internet snafu.
Not interested in what we have to say, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
Well,
But
first, tell us about you. You just were at SPX.
yes, I was just at the Small Press Expo in Bethesda, Maryland, and boy, oh boy, it was an intense weekend. Probably one of the most intense expos that I've ever attended as an exhibitor. Basically, from the minute I landed to the minute I left, it was seeing people, talking to people, talking about books, talking about just the industry, and then also just having a good old time with meeting new people. So it was a really fun experience. I definitely will be applying again for next year.
Awesome.
And yeah, it's talking about cats getting everywhere. It's my table mate was named Dick, and he did fashion comics. And he was telling me about how he does everything in watercolor, and their cat, their younger cat, one would like to lick his finished paintings. So some of the like fun pant patterns were not intended on some of the
Aw.
illustrations. They were by a cat, lovingly created by a cat. And then I guess it also got into the paint, some yellow paint, and made little yellow paw prints all over the house. So
Little stinkers.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's cats for you.
yeah, that's cats for you.
Yeah.
How
But
was your new comic received?
it not well.
Oh no.
It's actually quite refreshing to hear about failure because you don't usually hear people broadcast their
It
failures.
looks so cool. I want to read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll bring copies to CXC. The big issue is people really like the story. It's just the artwork is so super close to Adventure Time. People legit thought it was Adventure Time fan comics.
Mm-hmm.
And
Really?
yeah, like one person, bless their heart, they were the only ones that bought a Mercy Brown sticker the entire weekend, and they thought it was Marceline the Vampire Queen. And I did not have the
Aw.
heart to tell them that that was actually incorrect, but it was still another vampire. So,
Aw.
so this was a wonderful experiment. I have the mini comics still. I'll bring them to CXC, which is next weekend, and I'll give them to people who are interested. But I will be tweaking the artwork for the online version, which should be coming out in October, as a weekly webcomic, basically, and as a strip. Actually, it's really I haven't written a strip comic in a very long time,
Oh,
and yeah. It was a lot of learning. Let me just say that. Lessons were learned They were taught. The customer was very, very right in this particular instance, in the way that what is it, Kellogg intended. No, it was Ford that did that one. The customer is always right in the marketplace, being that the
Mhm.
marketplace did not want my comic, no one bought it. So,
Oh,
like, I was giving it away at the end. So it's very nicely printed, though.
I
Oh,
was
that's
gonna say
good.
it looked great. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think the
it's
actual,
the
but it looked
printing was
really.
beautiful. So many people were amazed by the printing, and one person bought it just because it felt nice.
Aw.
So,
Yeah. Those are
but
book
'cause
people, man.
yeah, those are book people. Those I could tell when they picked it up and they were just fawning over the soft touch of the cover and the interior pages.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're an art student, aren't you?" Yes, they were. Um,
Well,
so yeah, it but everything else was really well received. I almost sold out of Frogman Funnies and the Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities and sold quite a few numbers of Zombio. So,
Awesome.
oh,
yeah,
great.
it was fun. So I'll definitely be back, and if they'll have me, that's the thing. It's very demanding to get it. Like, so many people apply to SPX
I was gonna say
that
that's a hard one to get into, so that's amazing. That's really wonderful you got in.
yeah, it's a double lottery system from what
Hmm.
I remember being told. There's a lottery system for new people and a lottery system for veterans.
Oh,
And then
interesting.
Oh,
if you win the lottery, then it is a juried selection.
wow.
So they need to make sure you're actually making comics.
Wow, that
So,
sounds so complicated.
Uh-huh.
yeah, my only hot take, and I don't know if this will get me in the doghouse or not. There were too many T-shirts and non-comics being sold there.
Oh.
So it wasn't like a big convention like a Rhode Island Comic Con or whatever, where you just see people making only T-shirts,
Mhm.
but people would be making T-shirts in accompaniment with their comic. And
Uh-huh.
then, like, I saw a few other little crafts being sold alongside comics. I get why they're being done. I sell stickers, but because you don't always sell enough to pay for your table, and T-shirts and crafts usually will make up that difference. But I
Mhm.
was just like, there's a few too many being sold. That's just my old woman hot take. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Interesting,
that's
Is
an
this
interesting.
your
observation.
first year?
It was my first year. It
Okay.
now may be my only year. But it was fun and long hours.
Yeah.
Because we were there 7 hours the first day and 6 hours the next. And I don't know if you can hear Mickey barking in the background.
Yes. It's okay.
Okay. I may go let her back in. Um, if
Oh,
Christina, once you start talking about your travels, I will go get her. How
oh,
about that?
okay.
Yeah, yeah, because you went to not Transylvania,
Right, I
Romania,
went to
right?
Romania.
Romania.
We went to
Yeah.
Transylvania too, and we talked about that. I think the last episode, so it must have been right after that we went. And but I'm preparing to go to Argentina, so I am going to be
Ooh.
leaving October 3rd for the Urban Sketchers Symposium, and so that
Fun.
happened the first week, and then. And I sent you guys that cool graveyard. I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
sketching there. That thing is huge. It's it's supposed to be one of the biggest graveyards like in the world. And I just, I always think it's interesting, sort of the Spanish tradition of the mausoleums and stuff. And so
Yeah.
that looks like that will be I'll see if my phone acts weird at this graveyard.
Right?
We're talking about the one, that famous graveyard in Buenos Aires that I sent you guys a link to.
Yeah,
And we're definitely going to sketch there, but I was
Mhm.
wondering if there would be also spirits there that wouldn't want me taking pictures, like in Romania that
maybe
one time. I mean,
that
you
Just
would
just
be
never
avoid
know.
being under big trees.
Yes, yes. Hopefully, it didn't look like there's many trees at this
Okay.
particular
Good.
graveyard, but it's like all
Mhm.
these giant statues and
Mm.
mausoleums and stuff. So,
Oh, cool.
and then I'm staying with a woman, the woman who is the admin for the Atlanta chapter. And
Mhm.
so Gordana and I are going to go to Patagonia and to the Isuzu Falls after
Ooh,
the
that sounds
Fun.
symposium.
fun.
So, but I said, I'm excited to go to Patagonia, but I am not doing any mountain related walks, hikes. When I'm watching all these videos showing people that are like in their 20s doing these hikes and saying it almost kills them. I'm like, that ship has
Yeah.
sailed. I need only like good. I want very short hikes with good views, but I'm not going to be able to do like 11-kilometer
No.
slogs.
Yeah.
1 or 2 kilometers, even 5 kilometers, I could probably do, but as long
Yeah.
as they're not vertical kilometers.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. I am curious to see how many different spiders you find.
No.
Yeah. Well, there are some really interesting like llamas. I forget what they're not called llamas in Argentina, but it's like a variety kind of alpaca llama kind of animal that I can't remember what they're called, but they look really cool. Looks like there's
Okay.
some wild horses there and
Ooh.
a
Ooh.
lot of interesting wildlife.
Aw.
And so I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how much we can of this. I'm not sure, we're kind of at a good time of year because it's right before we're going during their spring, but it's early
Oh,
Yeah.
spring.
nice.
Yeah.
And so right now I'm also trying to figure out what exactly to wear because it's sort
Right.
of, I don't know what the temperatures are going to be like. But I think Patagonia is kind of like going to North Canada. It's going to be a little bit chilly.
Mm.
Layers?
Yeah,
Layers
that's
are
kind of
always
what
safe. Yeah.
I mean. I don't know if, it's not, since it's their spring, it's probably going to be okay, but it's still not going to be super warm. It'll probably be really nice. I mean, considering I'm warm all the time, it'll probably be nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm excited. It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds
It
fun.
does sound fun. I'm looking forward to seeing all the sketches and illustrations you do too, because they're always so wonderful.
Oh, thanks.
They
Thanks.
always
And
bring
there's,
whimsy to the locations, and I'm like, dang it, so good.
well, I think, you know what, I think that's one of the things that's really cool about urban sketching is no matter what style, actually, there's a lot of comic book artists that do urban sketching. There's so
Yeah.
many.
Mhm.
And I think that it's really neat to see everybody's different point of view.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sort
And-
of the world through everybody's eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hot update: all 3 dogs are now in here.
Oh, wow. So they're,
One of
they're
them is
missed the
breathing on their
cat.
legs.
oh,
Really weird. Anyway,
they want
so
to be part of the show.
they
Yeah.
are they're now sleeping at my feet.
We haven't
Um,
done a pet episode in a long time, but we should get Monica and
Yeah, that'd be
Christina
fun.
back on here and
I
have
don't
them.
know. Have they've met? I think they've met Yeti. Anyway, yeah.
Did they?
So Jen, you did a supernatural conference up in
Yes.
Chicago,
No,
Photos were
Indianapolis.
Indianapolis.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it was-
Chicago. You're not cool enough.
They had one after Indianapolis in Chicago.
I take my statement back.
So you're fine. They're all over.
Yeah.
Yeah, on a whim. Like I kept trying to convince my Christine to go with me. She's like, no. It's too expensive. And I'm like, well, and she's still in flux with her job too.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? You only live once. We're going. So I paid for it.
Aw.
And I'm like, her birthday's in October. I'm like, happy birthday. So I didn't get my Jared and Jensen hug. So we just did a photo with Jensen.
Okay.
And
Were they both there?
yeah, actually, Jared wasn't gonna be, but I think because his scheduling with his TV show Walker, but then it got canceled.
Ooh.
So then I think his schedule opened up a little bit. So
Yee.
he was there. But a picture with the two of them is it's $300.
Oof.
Wow.
Yeah. And if I wanted to do all the things I wanted to do, it would have been thousands of dollars.
Wow. Yeah.
So they at least allow you when you buy one photo op that you can have up to 4 people in the photo.
Mhm.
Oh,
So
wow.
Okay.
for just one of them, it was
Yeah.
like only 200. So
Mm.
but yeah, it was fun. I got to at least, have my arm around Jensen.
There you go. Yeah.
One
So
of
are
these
they-
days I'll get my hug.
So at these conventions, what else are there? Do you go to panels? Like
They
do you
have panels.
some friends that that go to these, or
They have cool
Um,
cars.
They have cool cars. They had a baby
Mm.
there. Though I learned apparently only Jensen's car can be named Baby, which is the one they used in the show.
oh,
Okay.
Jared has an Impala also, and it's called, I think, maybe Little Brother or something like that.
Huh.
But then there are other people that have the car, and they kind of rotate who goes to which cons.
Yeah.
And the one that was there this time, this car's name was Dean.
Oh.
So, and we actually got to sit in it.
You got to sit in Dean.
Got to sit in Dean. And my dumb ass shut the door, and then I couldn't get it open.
Uh-oh.
no.
I was just like, oh no. It's heavy. It's solid
Yeah.
metal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was hot and it was fun, and got to hear the car on, and got to ask a question, which didn't go over very well, but whatever.
Oh, I want details.
Yeah.
No, not publicly. No.
Oh, okay.
I'm just. It was just a stupid question, and nobody appreciated it, including
Oh.
Jensen.
Oh.
So
Oh,
Sorry, Jen.
it's all right. I mean, it wasn't like I got booed or anything.
No
was
tomatoes were thrown.
No,
No.
it was just a dumb question.
Okay.
But yeah, you get panels, you can do autographs. Of course, all of that costs money. I did get to meet Samantha Smith. She plays their mom on the show, and she was super sweet.
The one that got burned?
Yes.
Wow.
She dies in the first episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then they bring her back throughout the whole show.
Yeah.
So
Like any good Marvel movie, no one actually dies.
oh no.
true.
No. Well, they do, but then they get brought back.
They get brought
apparently.
back. Yeah.
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 And then I got to meet Ty Olson and DJ Qualls, who played Benny and Garth respectively, and they are getting married.
Oh,
Okay.
And DJ Qualls was super cute, and he kept talking about his wedding, because we're like, what are you doing? He's like, we don't know yet, we might have and then he was showing the ring he wanted. He was gonna buy for himself, and Ty didn't know yet that he was gonna give him this ring.
Oh,
It was super cute
That is
and
really
funny.
cute.
And Ty was super nice, and I always remembered him from a previous show.
Mhm.
He's got the prettiest blue eyes, man. He was super fun.
oh,
But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
that does sound like a lot of fun.
That does sound
Yeah.
fun.
And then my cat died.
Oh,
Not so fun.
Not so
In
fun.
between that, I stayed over at Jen's house when I visited
Yes.
Cincinnati.
oh, that's
And I
right.
got to see episodes of Ghost Facers from Supernatural. And
Yeah.
I still think about those episodes.
Yeah, I need to send you the list so you can see their full arc. But
Yes.
they're hilarious
Wow.
because they are making fun of ghost hunters.
It is.
And the
It
TV
hits
shows.
very close to home.
Yeah.
Especially like when these were made, I was in the ghost hunting
Mhm.
scene. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel attacked, but this also feels deserved. So
Oh, that's
like,
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and especially after watching a few episodes of the real ghost hunter shows.
yes, we also did that. So Jen and I would, after events and visiting like my mom and stuff, we would watch episodes of Ghost Adventures,
Oh,
eat
neat.
tacos, drink margaritas, and then watch Supernatural. It was quite a fun ladies'
That
weekend.
sounds. I
It
was gonna
was.
say that sounds like the perfect
Yeah.
weekend.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
It
gonna
was-
say I was some ghost hunter show I watched recently, and it was so obviously fake. It was like My Haunted House or something. I forget what it was called. And there was one that was taking place in Kentucky, actually close to where Troy used to live.
Ooh.
And the show was so obviously fake. I was like, I can't even believe they did a whole season of this,
Mm.
because it was one of those things where if this stuff was really happening, why would you even still be there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you got a
It's
sneak peek of me
fake.
hate watching the like 28 Days Haunted.
Yes,
something
yeah,
that
those
was on,
types of shows,
and
yeah.
I was live messaging these two as I'm watching, I think the first 15 minutes. And
Yeah.
I went into angry all caps pretty quickly.
Yeah.
just
I
sent
think
it
I
to
watched
madness.
all of it, and I was not happy with it either. It was
Yeah,
very annoying.
I only
Yeah.
did the first episode because I'm like, no, only madness lies this way. I'm not going to force
You
this
see,
on you.
I once I start something, I have to finish it. At least as far as TV shows go.
No.
Other things, no. Like cleaning the house, hell no. But TV shows, yeah. It's just like I got to see where this is gonna go, so
Yeah.
I can be informed.
Most of these
Yeah.
shows I don't make it through a whole episode because it's just like I'm like halfway through. I'm like, really? This is
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the one we watched where the guy was just screaming all the time with Holly Madison?
That was Ghost Adventures.
That was Ghost Adventures.
That was Ghost Adventures.
That would be interesting if you weren't screaming at the top of your damn lungs the entire
Why
time.
was he screaming?
To piss the ghosts off to get a reaction. I'm like,
that is what Zach.
okay.
That's what that show is known for, is
Yeah.
being very provocative with not provocative. No,
Antagonistic.
Well, I guess so. Antagonistic. I was thinking provoking.
Yeah.
Yeah, provoking with. Sorry, I got my P words mixed up. Yeah, provoking just spirits, and
Yeah.
it led to. I saw real world actual ghost hunters and investigators doing that at people's homes. And
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, let's simmer down a little bit
Yeah.
and not be addressing, like, we leave the house, the
Yeah.
family does not.
Right.
If there is something here, we don't want to make it angry and have it take out. Is a bad relationship, essentially.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's with him. Another hot take, though I know a lot of people agree with me, that was one of the problems with Ghost Adventures, is it's very antagonistic in
Yeah.
his approach.
Yeah.
So
And it's just
anyway,
not entertaining watching someone scream for a half an hour.
Well, I
No.
think it seems like it's hard for these shows because, like, when you're trying to have something that sort of has a semblance of actual experience,
Yeah,
you're not going to be able to compete with like a horror movie.
No.
True.
And
But they
they're
try to
shooting
make
it
it
like a
like,
horror movie. Yeah.
well, I
yeah,
will be
sound
honest,
effects and the music and stuff. It's hard to listen to sometimes.
the
Yeah.
one what we didn't watch, Jen, was the very first episode of Ghost Adventures. That one is fun. That is the very first one. It's Bobby Mackey's. I watched it, I think, 3 times for our
Wow.
Oh yeah.
big.
I should watch it. That one.
Yeah, that one is fun because they have enthusiasm. They're into it. I mean, yes, screaming does happen,
Mhm.
but it makes a little bit more sense. It's less the way that we saw it in that episode,
Mhm.
and is a much tighter episode because it was pre-COVID times. You can wander into the
Yeah.
restaurant, and
Yeah.
that one was fun. And it is also fun to see somebody's take of Cincinnati who's not from the area,
Yeah.
like what they choose to film and how they choose to present it. So
Yeah.
it's really fun in that way. So I do say, if you're going to go watch Ghost Adventures, stick to like the first seasons.
Is there
Yeah.
any show that you would recommend that's actually entertaining out of and to our listeners too? Is there actually a ghost? There are so many of them. I would say, venture to guess, there's got to be like hundreds of these shows with all the channels.
Yeah.
Is there one that's actually pretty good? Or
The one that I was the most impressed by, and I will say my caveat is I did not get to see the entire season because I stopped having cable, was Ghost Brothers,
Ghost
which
Brothers?
I think it was on Sci-Fi, and it was just, I think they had the most relatable, at least to me, approach to ghost hunting, which was not everything was super fantastic all the time. Like,
Mhm.
things could be mundane most of the time.
Yeah.
But the guys that were on it had such a good friendly rapport with one another that you didn't really mind if mundane things happened in the episode. The way they approached their investigations was just so fun to watch because they got along so well, and it wasn't like in Ghost Adventures or even Ghost Hunters, which can feel very businessy watching them, the
Mhm.
teams work together. These three, the Ghost Brothers team, felt like friends that were doing this and had their heart in the right places, at least in the first few episodes that I watched. Like I said, I didn't get to finish the series because I stopped having cable. I moved, and I don't know if it continued to be that way, but the first 5 episodes I was pretty happy with, and I've always had a very good positive feeling about that show.
Yeah.
So that one's one. I think it was a sci-fi show around the mid 2015, 2016-ish.
Hmm.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I think it's probably difficult to have a show because, as we've talked about with the ghost hunting, it's not like a horror movie or something that's edited. It's mostly sitting around, fiddling with equipment.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not. And it's hard when what you want for television is instant gratification. Like,
Yeah.
it's not good TV watching a bunch of people sitting around. And
No.
Well,
so
there's a lot of creative editing that goes into that too, with the sound effects and stuff like that too. And it's just
Mhm.
like,
exactly,
come
yes.
on.
But they want to keep you watching, and if it's not
Yeah.
interesting, people
Right.
aren't gonna watch. And so that's where you kind of have all the sound effects and the
Yeah.
all
I
of
will
that
be
stuff.
honest. I did watch Ghost Adventures for quite a few seasons because a friend of mine was their historian, who was Jeff
Yeah.
Belanger, and his segments for that show were fantastic. They would go into
Yeah.
the history, he would find eyewitnesses, people that experienced it, that worked at locations. For one of the locations, they actually, it was for Central State, I think is
Mm.
when they were there. They found former residents of Central State Asylum, and they found former security personnel that worked
Oh,
there,
wow.
all in around Indianapolis. And so he did a lot of good work with and I feel like a lot of the heavy lifting was done in those segments, the historical segments, and I'm biased towards history, as you've seen from this entire podcast. Um, but it did all the heavy lifting of creating the emotional environment for which the back end, which was always the investigation, would take place in.
Hmm.
And when they stopped doing such in-depth research and Jeff left the show, I stopped watching
Yeah.
because that literally building the character of the location was not done.
Yeah.
And it the second half of this episode would fall flat because they weren't doing anything. The
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the
suspense
history
wasn't there, the
sometimes is the
environment
most.
wasn't there. Sorry,
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
guys.
the history is a lot of times the most interesting thing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a big reason why I watch the shows. It's a big reason why I go on ghost hunts because I
Mhm.
like to see the old decrepit buildings or whatever.
I
I
like
like
looking
the
at the
history.
architecture.
Yeah. I like
Yeah,
the
Mhm,
history of it. Yeah.
yeah. And
mhm.
also all that decrepitness is super fun to draw. It's
Oh,
it's a
yes,
lot
I
more
love
fun
it.
to draw than boxes,
Mhm.
which is what modern architecture is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
It's also fun to take pictures of.
it's very, yes, there's a lot of character in old places.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm, mhm.
speaking of old places, we're going to
Yes.
talk about one such location.
I'm
So,
excited about the story.
Yeah, me
yeah,
too.
this one I learned about from our friend Greg Hand, who runs the Cincinnati Curiosities Tumblr page.
He's
Not to be
amazing.
confused with our project, but we're all good friends here.
Mhm.
And he wrote this article for Cincinnati Magazine, but the original story is from the Cincinnati Gazette. Unfortunately, I could not find cut or clippings from it because the Cincinnati Gazette archive got eventually put into the Inquirers and kind of lost in the minutia of that merger. So, and also the Cincinnati Post. So they're all one big happy archive that's lost media right now. Anyway, so we have the third issue of the Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities coming out pretty soon. Both Jen and I are part of this project. Christina is wonderfully cheering us on from the sidelines this time, and just like Jen did last time. So we're all taking part. We got the family in. And some of the creators will be joining us in the future weeks, doing interviews about the locations that they chose to highlight, why they chose to highlight them, and the illustrations that they did. So pretty soon we hope to have Lauren on with Jen to talk about the Lady in Black of Eden Park, along with other creators that did stories a lot with the Ohio River as being a central part of it. So to start off the stories that we're highlighting from this book, we are doing my 3-page story, which is the sea serpent of the Roebling Bridge. So I got the story, as I said earlier, from Greg Hand. and who we've had on the podcast before. So put ourselves back to 1878. I know we're in the heat of the toilet crisis, if you remember that episode, where we have people peeing in the streets and there is a sanitary uproar happening in Cincinnati. Their plumbing is not up to par, and they're trying to create facilities for everyone. And one reason is we had a huge influx of people moving into the area because the city was growing by leaps and bounds and expanding significantly every year. And that's because we were the center of industry and creative arts in the United States. We were one of the major cities. And that's where just a few years before, we had gotten the moniker of the Queen City because we were the Queen City to the United States. Sorry, Charlotte. Um, we I don't think we had it first, but we wear it proud as the second city of the Queen Cities. Anyway, Ben Carrick, a delivery man, was driving his horse-drawn delivery wagon across the world's largest suspension bridge in 1878. The Roebling Suspension Bridge, which was built in 1866. As he's crossing the Cincinnati side of the Ohio River, coming from Covington, he hears a low moo coming from the waves below. Curious, he pulls over and looks to the side to see a great sea serpent swimming in the waters below. Protruding from the water some 12 or 15 feet was what seemed to be the head of a huge serpent or animal that was rushing through the water at a very rapid rate and occasionally lashing the water with its tail into a perfect foam, he told the Cincinnati Gazette. Although the serpent made sounds like a cow, it also looked nothing like a cow. The serpent would also occasionally make hissing noises as it swam along. The Gazette article about the monster continued. Its head and neck seemed to me to be covered by black glossy substance like hair. The further back from the head, the hide looked like that of an alligator. The head was shaped somewhat similar to that of a seahorse, which we have so often seen in pictures. So seahorses had only been recently photographed and references were not great. So that is why the illustration looks the way it does. That was provided by the Cincinnati Gazette, which makes it look like the horse, like a horse's head on a long serpent snake's, like an eel's body, with basically little whiskers, kind of like catfish. Because the illustrator read seahorse and literally just drew a horse that belonged in the sea. It makes me giggle whenever I look at it. It's so derpy. Carrick mentions that the serpent continued to swim upstream towards the Ohio shoreline before disappearing from view. And that's the end of his story with the sea serpent. But that is not the actual end of our sea serpent's tale. Oh no. The Cincinnati Gazette ran a story a few days later exclaiming that Carrick's sea serpent had been witnessed by a steamboat captain in Vevey, Indiana, the day prior. According to the Cincinnati Enquirer, who had received a note from the witness, John Davidson, who was the master of the Silver Moon steamboat, which was docked at Vevey at the time of the account. At one time, basically Davidson says this, at one time it reared its head above the surface of the water in the manner of sea lions at the zoological gardens of your city. The long pelican beak, the slimy mane, and the extreme serpentine length of the animal answer exactly to the previous descriptions that have been published. So I like how this one does not look like a seahorse, but instead has the long pelican beak and a slimy mane, much like the hair described in Carrick's witness statement. I also love the statement, zoological gardens of your city, because he wasn't from Cincinnati. Before Davidson could call his first mate to witness the serpent, it dove underwater and swam away, as all good cryptids do, At the end of his message to the Inquirer, Davidson suggests that the city should mount Gatling guns on either shores to capture or kill the beast. That tracks with 1878. So, like, why try to keep something alive? Why don't we shoot it and then show it off? So, anyway, the Gazette also went to identify the sea serpent as Claremont County's Hartman Mills serpent, who had escaped the pool from the dammed creek upstream of the Little Miami River. The Hartman Mills serpent was described to be reputedly 15 to 20 feet long and as thick as the body of a man. Maybe because it ate someone? I don't know. Those were the last reports of the Roebling Bridge or Hartman Mills serpent, but the story lives on to this day. Historian Greg Hand wrote about it for his Cincinnati magazine, which is where I got the idea to do the story. So for the Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities, I made a 3-page story. It's just Carrick's eyewitness account. I have the first page with me. The rest of them or the first and second. So I know this is for a podcast. You're just like, Kat, don't go showing it to them. But for our YouTube version, you'll see the pages because I'm holding them up right now. So this is what it looks like.
Oh, neat.
Ooh.
Very pretty.
Thank you.
Aww.
And then there's the sea
Oh.
Aww, he's cute.
Yeah, I made it super doe-eyed. So I like the wowee.
Wowee.
But yeah,
I think it was just passing through.
Well,
I
you
think it
know,
was just
I
passing through,
put
too.
the alligator gar. I posted a link in our Facebook chat, and it can be up to 9 feet long,
Ooh.
and it is a big. And I think I have one at the aquarium. I know I've seen them before, but it's one of those river monster kind of things. And this is from Kentucky, so
so it can live in fresh water.
yeah, I mean there are some pretty big things like that are, and of course those giant catfish as well, but I mean even carp grow pretty big too. So
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of stuff too that as river traffic got much, as it increased, larger animals have more difficulty living in bodies of water like that. I mean, even
I wonder if it was a gar because it does have a pelican-like beak.
it does look beakish.
Yeah, it
That's
looks
why I was
beakish.
thinking of it.
Yeah, and I wonder if the black substance they saw in it was some type of, like, I don't know, infection, algae. Maybe it swam through some trash.
The
Like,
Ohio River has been pretty nasty.
it is.
Now, I mean, I don't know how, it vacillates whoever's, in charge of how much they keep the rivers and lakes clean. But the Ohio River used to be, and a lot of the rivers, like the fish are not safe to eat out of them.
Nope.
When I was a kid, I had a friend that lived by the river. Like her parents lived on the hill next to River off 52. And we would, against my mother's advice, swim in the river.
Yeah.
And she got scratched once by a little branch in the river, and she got like these giant blisters on her hand because it's just so. I mean, a lot of bacterial. I mean, there's just a lot of nasty stuff there.
Yeah.
A lot of factories dump stuff into that water.
They do. I know some friends of mine joked that if you jump into the Ohio River, you may come up with a third arm. So, I mean, like the sewage, if you remember that train accident that happened last year or 18 months ago, that eventually made it to the Ohio River and went past Cincinnati. And I remember the waterworks had to close off the intake for the water while that cloud passed by. It took 3 days because none of the water from it was safe. So, that's and 1878 Cincinnati, you got, like, we had the pig packing at the time and all that was getting dumped into the water, which I could see why large catfish and gar would be all over around because of all the just
all that
there.
offal. Wow.
Yeah.
It's like a buffet. It's like Golden Corral for fish.
It's exactly. No, it was a Gold Star chili.
Okay.
A Gold Star chili for fish. But yeah, that's probably what it is. So, but it's just such a fun story. I love how there's
Mhm.
more than one witness too, and that they had a different sea serpent that had escaped its pool that it could have been too. So it kind of reminded me of the story of the Crosswick snake, which was witnessed two other times after the original Crosswick eyewitness account, once in Lebanon and the other one in Cedar Creek. So it's just fun how these cryptids make their way around the countryside.
Well, I think that there's a lot of animals that do like, especially like when you start looking at sea creatures and stuff and you see all of those drawings on maps. I mean, there are a lot of things in the ocean that look like that. I
Yeah,
mean,
there are. Yeah.
and like we were talking about oarfish
Hmm.
and whale. I mean, the biggest whales are huge. I mean, they are sea monsters,
They
really,
are.
and I mean, but they're also living beings that don't mean any harm. But if you were on a little boat in the 16 or 1700s, that's probably really scary to see. I mean, it would be now, like when you see like those videos or drone footage of like a whale underneath a boat or something. And it's
Yeah.
amazing how, I mean, it's huge. It's like
It's
it is a
just
leviathan.
yeah. And like, but was it earlier this year that there was a whale that capsized a boat because it jumped on it?
Yes, yes, I saw that.
Yeah. And then speaking of whales, and this is a send good vibes thing, there is a baby boy orca whale that was born off the
Oh,
San Juan Islands here in Washington State. And I really want it to survive. So everyone just send good vibes to it because we're having a problem with orca whales dying because of all the
oh.
sound and pollution that is being produced by just man. So, I'm just
Isn't
like, "Go, go, little dude, like,
Isn't that what was
survive."
killing manatees? Like, a lot of manatees in Florida get confused by, like, the boats and, like, they get
Yep.
hurt by them because of the sounds and
There's that, yes, and that's why there's a lot of bans on using motors wherever there's manatees. And manatees have a little place in my heart because they were mermaids, and,
Ah.
I it's, I really want to swim with them. That's highly illegal though. So, I could do a clear kayak. But yeah, manatees will go up and start eating people's lawns if they have, like, lawns that go into the mangrove,
Oh, wow.
canals and stuff. So if you have like, you can't treat your grass because that goes right into their water, and, yeah, it's,
I was thinking the river dolphins, like, in the Amazon also, it was
yeah.
similar, where they were
Yeah,
doing good.
there's yeah, exactly, and the river dolphins I'm thinking of the pink dolphins of China,
Yes. But there's,
like
river dolphins in the Amazon too.
yeah,
I don't think they're pink, though.
no.
The pink ones are cool, but they're gone, actually. Aren't they officially
Yeah, they just
extinct?
went
I believe.
extinct recently, unfortunately.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, but it seems like, the times when, you didn't have a lot of industrial waste going into the or
Mhm.
fertilizer or whatever going into these waterways, you probably had some pretty shockingly I mean, even the ocean, that's one thing, like, a lot of these, like, tuna and stuff is getting overfished,
It's
and they
overfished
said
and a lot of heavy
a lot
metals.
like, these big tuna, like, they're pretty old and they don't breed fast, and
Nope.
eventually you run out of these big tunas because they're not like it's not like a school of tuna becomes like a you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's not like
they
you can
don't
replenish them
yeah,
fast.
they don't replenish that fast. That reminds me that I think it's the Monterey Bay Aquarium has an online guide for different types of fish that are safe to eat, as
Mhm.
in they can be replenished, their populations replenished fast enough for consumption versus ones that you should not be eating at all, because they're endangered or they just like a tuna, they don't replenish their populations fast enough for how fast we're taking them out of the ocean. So if you're ever curious about what to order at a seafood place, if you're like a pescatarian like myself, You want to make sure that you're eating stuff that can be
I think that's an app, or at least it used to be.
It could. It's probably an app too. I've just seen it on the website interface because I'm an old woman, and it's. But yeah, that's really handy if you really like fish and eating fish and stuff like that. Like, yay! So, yeah.
Yes, we have a listener question, and we did a couple episodes when we first started on dreams, and he was asking me. He said he had a dream a long time ago of waking up in his bed when he was 17 and woke up on his back, looking up and saw the face of a woman that was transparent, very dark in his room. She was very hard to see, though, and he barely could make out her face. He said he will never forget that dream, and it's engraved in his memory, and he gets lucid and vivid dreams, and he said they're very frightening. And that seems like it's a very common dream, isn't it?
I don't know how common it is, but I know it's one that's used a lot in horror movies.
She could be a succubus.
Well, yeah, there's the succubus, though she wasn't sitting on him.
Yeah, or suffocating.
But
suffocating.
Well, you don't know that she wasn't sitting on him because he was on his back, looked up, and saw the face of a woman.
But he's not talking about being confined.
Like out of breath.
Yeah.
Well, that would be a question I could ask him if maybe
that would be a good follow-up. So do you want the more scientific or the more metaphysical response on here?
Both.
Yeah, ¿por qué no las dos? So I know when you're sleeping on your back a lot, you are susceptible to sleep paralysis, though you're not mentioning this, which is why we want that follow-up question. And it is super spooky to wake up to people floating over you. I have been fortunate enough not to have encountered that. Well, I did, but I wasn't the person the ghost was floating over. I was a person in the room and witnessed it floating over somebody else.
See, that's even creepier than...
It was my grandma. She was floating over my friend who was sleeping over. And after that particular sleepover, no one slept over at my house again. So,
well, I mean, when you say, hey, did you know your grandma was floating over you last night? I mean, you know that.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah. Did your friend see her too?
No. Oh, yes, she did, because she started screaming bloody murder.
Oh.
So, and
she and her
sister left like at 3 a.m.
Aw, poor baby.
Yeah, we were in late elementary school at the time. So, and it was my grandma that was floating over her. And it was just out of curiosity. Wow. Grandma was just like, who are you? Why are you visiting my daughter? Why are you sleeping on the floor? And
but you said they saw her, but they didn't actually see.
Aaron woke up and saw her. And then as soon as she started screaming, all the other girls woke up because there was other friends that were staying over. And Aaron was just crying, so she left early. And then friends were freaked out.
Seems like this needs to be a mini comic.
You know, I did make mini comics of ghost encounters that I had because there's so many autobiographical stuff, and people did not like them.
I liked them.
Okay. Yes. I'll make them for you.
I'm a fan. We're fans. Jen and I are your biggest fans.
But to answer the question, it's super spooky to wake up with faces in front of you like that.
Oh, I think that would totally freak me out.
Yeah. That is very, and even if it's a dream, that is still a super spooky dream to have.
Yeah.
So especially if you can't make out faces, that I think is just calling to all of us. We like to see as humans other people's faces.
Yeah.
And
but what is that? Pareidolia? Is that what it is? Where you see faces and everything?
Yeah, this pareidolia. So it's striking that he never will forget that dream. I will say, for one thing, with lucid and vivid dreams, if you remember them, I believe it's sleep scientists have said it's because you've woken up and interrupted your REM sleep, which is why you remember what was happening. And everyone does dream. It's just we don't always remember them when we wake up. And you can train yourself to remember these dreams if you train yourself to write them down as soon as you wake up. You can actually train yourself to remember more of your dreams. It takes a while, but it can happen. Um, I know I used to dream much more vividly and remember them when I would wake up, until I had my son, and then now I never dream. It's like I
Huh.
don't remember anything.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Um,
interesting. Maybe it's
yeah,
because you're so exhausted that you just.
could be that. It could be that. So exhausted by life, I can't remember that.
I
There is
remember mine for a while after, and then
yeah,
I'll forget them, and then something will remind me of them like months later, and then they're back again.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have 2 small anecdotes to tell. One, my most vivid dream that I ever remember, and I had it when I was, I believe, in middle school, or early high school, was I had a dream that I was a around 10-year-old version of myself,
Uh huh.
and my friends were put on a conveyor belt and turned into cereal. So I remember that one. Um, it's just so odd and ludicrous, honestly, that
Did
I've
you just
never
watch Willy Wonka?
no, but I totally see why you'd say that. Um, did I read Roald Dahl recently? I don't know, maybe. Kinda screams it, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Um, but, the other thing is I have woken up before with seeing a black-eyed child standing next to my bed.
Now that is
Yeah,
creepy.
that's creepy.
I remember very vividly the heart-shaped face that the little boy had, the black soulless eyes, and then his brown hair shuffled to the side. And this is when I lived in Hyde Park in Cincinnati before I moved to Oakley. And I remember waking up, and then as soon as I kind of woke up more, he just disappeared. But he was sitting on my mattress like this, and his arms resting on the mattress and his head on my hands.
Did he smile at
And
you?
yeah, kind of like creepy little smile, like little shark teeth. The thing is
Uh-uh.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
yeah, it was not real, is
Mm-mm.
the story
Okay.
though. It was something I had been dreaming, and since I had just woke up, it was just kind of a trail off of what I
Okay.
was dreaming.
Still.
So, still, I mean, like, "Cat, what's wrong with you? Why are your friends turning to cereal? Why are there shark teeth, black-eyed children in your dreams?
Mhm,
I
mhm.
don't know. I d d d I have no explanation for that." But, sometimes I dream about being Sailor Moon, so there's that.
That's
It's
fun.
Good
interesting because
fun.
sometimes when I remember, I do journal about dreams, and when I read back through them, a lot of them are so nonsensical and so
Mhm.
weird.
Yeah.
It really is but a lot of times people get ideas in their dreams, and I think
Mhm.
they say a lot of times because you hear about people thinking of inventions in their dreams, and a lot of times, like if there's something you're doing, your brain is actually working it out. I mean, that's
Yeah.
why they say to sleep on it. I mean, like a lot
Mhm.
of times, like, and you probably experience this when you work on comics or any sequential storytelling. There are times like when I at night, like I'm like this is just not working out, and then you sleep on it, and then in the morning you figured it out, and it's
Oh,
your
yeah.
brain still working on it in your sleep, and then you're like, oh, now I know I'm going to do this.
Yeah, exactly. Um,
I have stress dreams. When I'm particularly stressed out, I will have dreams about what's going on in my life.
mhm.
And my most favorite one is when my mom was going through a lot of stuff with my stepdad. I had a dream that he killed her.
Ooh.
And I
Oh, now that's intense.
well, killed her like she jumped off the edge of a balcony,
Oh, okay.
and I looked over the edge of the balcony and saw her lying
Ye
there on the ground, and then I woke up. I'm like, "Well, know what that's about."
yeah. Wow.
Because I felt like he was killing her.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Wow. So, yeah,
downer.
I would love to one, thank you, Brennan, for
Yes.
writing in that story that is super spooky.
Yeah,
That's horror movie level spooky.
scary. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, that would be frightening
Yeah.
sometimes, so I appreciate you writing in, and we just had the did you ever get sleep paralysis?
Yeah.
That's, our follow-up question, so
Could it be a night terror?
I mean, it could be a night terror. Those things.
Troy used to get those a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he still gets really weird dreams, that like of so and sometimes I think it's might even be breathing issues. Probably should get an apnea test because sometimes he dreams that he's choking and maybe he is
Ooh.
choking.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be
That's
sleep
scary.
apnea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe needs a CPAP.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That'll help you a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, it's been nearly more than an hour because we actually lost the first few minutes because of the shenanigans.
One of these
the
days
internet
we'll have the
gremlins.
bandwidth to do bonus episodes.
Yes, someday.
When we do the Patreon or something.
Yeah, someday we'll do that. But for now, thank you everyone for joining us on this week's episode of the Hometown Haunts podcast. I am your host, Kat Cloco. Along with me on this ride into the unknown are Christina Wald and Jen Kohler. You can follow us at Hometown Haunts _podcast and also Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities on Instagram. And you can send your ghost stories, cryptid tales, or dreams to hometownhauntedmail@gmail.com and also join our Facebook group, Hometown Haunts. For now, everyone, that's it. Good night. Good luck. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.